charming characters, stunning scenery, and fiercely French. This is Clair Obscur Expedition 33.
Soon she'll wake and paint again. Paint a new number, ticking down every year. Every year she paints again. And every year, an expedition departs for the continent with one hopeless mission. Destroy the paintress so she can never paint death again. We are Expedition 33.
We've had a host of celebrated games recently, from Blue Prince and Citizen Sleeper 2 to Avowed and Monster Hunter. It can be easy with how fast things move to always be chasing that next high. The just alright gets passed over, there's not even moments to discuss all of the good, and those that do get talked about, you're trying to convince your social circle that they deserve attention more than any of the other current competitors for the sacred resource that is their time. The language is also increased. You need to lift it above the last. It has to stand out from the rest. It needs to cut through all that noise. Combine these two, and you can end up in a situation where it looks like every game you're seeing people talk about is the next coming of the divine. If hyperbole were a currency, there'd be no cost of living crisis. I end up reacting to this like any sane person would. I dig my heels in and resist as fiercely as I can. If something gets too much praise, then for some unquantifiable reason, it makes me resist boarding that train, even if part of me knows I would enjoy it. It's almost too good to be true. You see, I need my praise in the correct amount, like medication. A measured opinion from Keith down the local carries more weight than some critics these days. Really, Keith? White Lotus, huh? Alright, I'll check that one out. I could sing the praises of Clair Obscur. I could pull out the thesaurus. I could invent new compound words to try and get across just how much you should play this game. Instead though, I'm going to take the simple, leveled approach, and hopefully that makes it mean more. You see, while playing Clair Obscur, somewhere around the 5-hour mark-ish, I thought to myself, I wish more games were like this. And that feeling and that enjoyment never waned. There is no revolutionary combat system, no industry-changing narrative. It's as simple as every key part of Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is strong enough to stand on their own merit, and as such, the whole thing profits. It's soaked in the ink of the JRPG genre. Once a year, the paintress wakes and paints a number upon a monolith, and at that moment, everyone of that age fades out of this life. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 takes place when the number on that monolith reads as 33. Every year an expedition is sent forwards to try and stop her. Every year it fails. Time is running out as that number gets lower and lower, and this year it's your turn to go on that expedition. That's prime JRPG right there. How many times have we gone on adventures to take down evil queens ruling over lands, or you know, if I had a nickel for every divine being or god that I took down because we disagreed with their methods, I'd be Scrooge McDuck in it right now. On show is a story about resistance, about romance, futility, and existentialism. How does a society adapt to knowing that once a year, a giant number in the sky is going to tick down and remove your loved ones right in front of you? How do you as a single person fight that? What can you do except try to make something beautiful out of it? The prologue sets the scene of a world known, of a world expected, and how this group of people, this civilization, just handles this situation. And then the game actually starts and shows you how little you can actually know of a world when you spend it living in just one city. You're tasked with a mission, sure, but as an individual, how do you approach the idea of stopping the paintress? How do you beat that concept? How quickly can you adapt if you've lived an entire life in black and white, and suddenly you're introduced to a world full of color? The prologue, the main story, even the optional side content can hit pretty hard emotionally. Death, loss, and the ability to carry on runs central to Clair Obscur. There's beauty in the message that Clair Obscur is trying to tell you, but if you're not in a stable place, This game could easily sucker punch you, as you go from watching your party members be jovial to traumatized with just the stroke of a brush. It conjures images and memories of Lost Odyssey for me, a game steeped in misery at times, and yet filled with characters who lighten the moment and are thrown into this insanity together as you fight your way through it. Clair Obscur isn't just a wallowing walking tour. It's not misery for the sake of it. Every puncture serves a purpose. Every hit is measured and gives rest after to allow it to sink in and to allow recovering. It's refreshing to have a game that can carry such a heavy story and in a way that even the lowlights can be highlights when it comes to this journey. I don't want to spend too long waxing poetic about the story in Expedition 33 or how I feel like it treats me like an adult. To do so will risk incursion into spoilers, and as you know, that ain't something we do here. It's not hard to find something else to talk about either. It's like looking at a painting. The more you look, the more you'll see. The combat works like this as well. Look at it briefly, and you're going to see a turn-based system that looks like those seen in many an RPG. If you look closer, you'll start to see more parts of it appear. Attacks in combat are accompanied by quick-time events. Hit the button at the corresponding time, and you'll do bonus damage. Miss the timing, and you might just do a reduced amount of damage, or you could miss the attack, or you could even end up damaging yourself. The first comparison my brain jumped to for this was the Gunblade in Final Fantasy VIII, because my brain will take any chance to get to the Gunblade in Final Fantasy VIII. Just mentioning the name has me hearing Liberi Vitali in my head right now. Of course, there are myriad comparisons you can make from your own history. QuickTime button presses during combat aren't new. Neither are the concepts of dodging or parrying attacks either. As the game progresses, you're introduced to new ways to defend yourself. Dodges, parries, a jump, a counter. Jump and counter are gimmicks for specific attacks, with the main two methods for defense for most of the game being dodge and parry. Dodge being the safer option, while parry has a smaller window to execute, but if successful, rewards you with AP, the currency used to cast your skills, and a counterattack if you parry every swing. The core concept here is that you're going to be using AP to cast skills, attack the enemies, hit the quick times at the right time, and if you're good enough, you're going to parry and deal more damage. If not, you dodge and play it safe. One of these is vastly superior to the other though, as if you can time the parries, and you should take the time to learn how to time them, you can practically trivialize most fights in the game. Even if you're fighting an enemy that's going to have 8 turns before you, if you can parry every attack that enemy is going to do, then you're going to take no damage, and you're going to deal damage back to them with each of their attacks. And you're then going to be swimming in AP when it does finally come round to your turn. This can lead to a inconsistent difficulty curve, as you might be able to learn some parry patterns while others elude you. But you're given the freedom to approach optional areas if you choose. You could take the time to level up your characters, to learn the patterns, and keep persisting until you succeed. The only penalty here for failure is frustration and a short reload screen. Combat is also kept interesting by every character having their own skill tree, and a unique mechanic. Gustav brings an overcharge. Every hit or dodge increases a counter. When it hits 10, you can power up an attack. Mael dances between offensive and defensive stance. Her skills can swap your stances or gain bonuses based on which one you're in. The goal here is to efficiently dance between both of them while looking to eventually slip into Virtuoso stance, one that gives you dramatically increased damage to then deliver the final blow. Other characters have their own playstyles and abilities, and I don't want to spoil all of that fun, so let's move on. Combat is also supported by Pictos, items you can slot into each character, giving them stats and passive abilities. Win 4 combats with them equipped, and you'll learn the passive ability for any party member to then use without that item being equipped. They don't gain the stats of it, but it means you can end up building your party around those passive abilities and specific sets of Pictos. There is a max limit to how many passive abilities you can have equipped, as they cost Lumina, but you can increase the max that you have with items throughout the world, and there aren't little passives. These aren't things like 2% increased damage. They're not going to be things you neglect. They're going to change the way that you engage with combat on a wild level. These are things like, if you're fighting alone, gain 100% crit chance, or every attack does either 50% or 200% damage, or, you know, die when combat starts. You can spend a lot of the game playing around with the new Pictos you find. They are myriad, and there are some fun combinations you can make. Having a character enter battle, instantly die, then explode, damaging all enemies, and then get revived and be buffed because of being revived is hilarious. I spent a long time running around setting up a party that worked around the debuff burn, and then swapped over to a lone wolf party where I had a single member, but they did more damage than if 3 were there combined. There is a lot of creative room in Clair Obscur. I will admit though, I'd love to see Picto loadouts, or just a better management screen for them than what this is. Because swapping them in and out, or, you know, trying to approach different combat situations, was the least enjoyable tedium of Expedition 33. And alleviating that would pretty much remove one of the only problems I encountered with this game. We can talk about the art style, how colourful and vibrant areas of this game are, filled with vistas and backdrops that you can't help but pause at for a moment. Or the music that I'm sure has already been added to a lot of playlists over the past week and you're seeing people constantly talk about. Pick a piece of this game and there's something positive you can say about it. No hesitation or having to pause and think. You don't need to clarify with ifs or buts. You can just find something positive on show and talk positively about it. You get it by now though. If I keep talking, you'll add this to the list of games to take a look at one day. That backlog isn't a problem though. Don't worry, you'll beat it. You'll beat it one day. I believe in you. So, where does that leave us? Clair Obscur Expedition 33 costs £40, 45 euros, or $45. That's another positive. Our playthrough took 25 hours to roll credits, during which we unlocked 28 out of the total 55 achievements. It's worth mentioning here there is a New Game Plus mode, and there are missable achievements. As always, we mention this so you can gauge if you have time for the game, and what an average playthrough looks like if you're going through the story. You can sink a lot more time into this than those 25 hours. There's endgame after the credits roll, there's optional bosses, and more side story to discover. So the game has a lot more going on if you want to spend longer here. Especially when adding in New Game Plus, if that's your thing. And, you know, it's on Game Pass, so that's great. If you're going to bounce off Clair Obscur, the obvious points are the story, depending on if you have any raw trauma, and the combat system's reliance on the active parry dodge system, which, while it can take the combat from punishing to pushover with a single button, if you can't get the timing right, can lead to frustration just as easily. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is a game that conjures memories of Lost Odyssey, of Final Fantasy X, of Bravely Default, and a host of other RPG greats. A game willing to treat me like an adult as it introduces me to a world filled with interesting characters I grow to care about, and then watch as they are subjected to the horrors of a world that they weren't prepared for. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is at times emotionally devastating, at others defiantly heartwarming. And most importantly throughout, it's very willing to remind you of just how damn creepy mimes are.